I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm Jack Frost, Chairman of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the committee meetings this morning, October 5, 2022. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D. headquarters building located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D. website after the meeting's conclusion. 1, safety briefing. I'd like to invite our Vice President of Safety and Security, Shane Hunter, to provide a briefing regarding protocol for all individuals in attendance at the board meeting today in the event of an emergency.
Good morning, Shane Hunter, Vice President of Safety and Security. The M.U.D. boardroom is on the first floor here at our headquarters, and normal entry and exit into this space was through the rear of the room, as we all did this morning. There is another exit here on this side of the room, and it'll be notable that the nearest fire extinguisher, first aid kit, and AED are also located in this hallway. With the location of the AED in mind, can I have a show of hands of who's CPR and AED trained in the room? Thank you. You may be called upon in case of emergency. If there is an emergency, 911 will be contacted by the security guards, who will then escort EMS personnel into this space for patient treatment. If we need to leave this space for any reason, excuse me, we'll go through this door here on this side of the room, take 2 lefts, and reconvene in the parking garage where we'll conduct accountability. That concludes the safety briefing.
Thank you. Roll call.
Frost.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
Howard. Here. Kavanaugh.
Here.
Bagley.
Here.
Cook. Here. Friend.
Open Meetings Act. I would like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the boardroom. Construction and operations. Senior Vice President and Chief Operations Officer Gina Lango will review the capital expenditures.
Good morning. Gina Lengel, Senior Vice President and Chief Operations Officer. Behind tab 5 is our capitals expenditure letter. There's only 2 items on the letter this month, so I think that's a record, at least since I've been back here. So I'll only be discussing one of them today. There were no system improvements, so there is no map that we're going to show you for that today. So the item I'd like to talk about is item number 2. It is a ratification for $157,000 to purchase SCBA equipment for hazmat response at all 3 of the water treatment facilities. So SCBA is self-contained breathing apparatus. It's equipment that we use for our hazmat team at all 3 of the water treatment plants. In the event of a chemical spill, this hazmat team is the one that responds to that. We were notified by the manufacturer that the parts for our current equipment were no longer going to be available. And so Water Operations and Safety met with the manufacturer and looked at what options we would have for that. The SCBA system uses backpacks and bottles that are filled with pressurized air, so in case they need to respond from that. But the hazmat teams also have certain equipment that is fit specifically for them, like masks and that type of equipment. In order to have successful operation for this team, that needs to have interchangeability between plants. If we had some equipment at one plant that was one type of equipment and something else different at another, they would have to bring everything with them to go to help respond instead of just the stuff that personally fits them. And so it's really important to have the same type of equipment at all plants so that they can utilize the equipment when they get there and change out parts if they need to, like tanks and so forth. The purchase of this purchase has equipped us to use the appropriate number of backpacks. We'll actually purchase the appropriate number of backpacks and air bottles, and we'll also purchase the masks and all the rest of the equipment that's needed for this team. This was completed as a ratification because we were notified last week that there would be a 10% increase in the price by October 1st if we didn't order before that. And then we expect another increase to be in January. So we decided that we would go ahead and purchase it to be sure that we got that savings. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you.
Okay. We will now hear from the Director of Facilities Management, John Veloradzky, to review the master planning and design phase services for the renovation of Construction Center 1 and to build Construction Center 2.
Thank you. Thank you. This morning, I'll be discussing the approval for the master planning and design phase services for Construction Center 1 and design phase services to build Construction Center 2. Construction Center 1 was constructed in the late 1950s with an addition constructed in the early 1960s. No significant modifications or renovations have occurred to this facility since that time. Construction Center 1 does not have adequate capacity to store modern vehicles and equipment or to provide accommodations for an increased workforce. It is also the only district facility to house multiple field operation divisions and functions, including construction, gas distribution, water distribution, maintenance, fleet management, and material management. Renovations to Construction Center 1 and building Construction Center 2 will provide the required redundancy and flexibility to meet operations and business continuity objectives and the demand of future growth. At the April meeting, the board approved a resolution to use the construction manager at-risk process as the delivery system for both projects. Project Control was subsequently hired as the district's owner's representative to help with project management services. With the assistance of Project Control, requests for qualifications and proposals were publicly solicited for the necessary architectural master planning and design services, and 8 firms submitted for the projects. A review committee made up of members from Facilities Management and Project Control narrowed the list to 4 firms during the evaluation process, including HDR, the combined team of Holland, Basham Architects and Davis Design, the combined team of JEO Consulting Group and Leo A. Daly, and Schemmer. The review committee unanimously selected the project team of Holland, Basham Architects and Davis Design based on the following: their strong resumes designing operations and maintenance facilities, successful completion of multiple construction manager at-risk projects on time and within budget, Holland, Basham Architects' successful completion of the district's headquarters renovation project, Davis Design's successful design services for the Lincoln Electric Systems operation and maintenance facility. District personnel from multiple divisions have toured this facility for ideas to improve Construction Center 1 and to incorporate into the design for Construction Center 2. And lastly, both firms' willingness and ability to seek employee engagement to assess facility needs, which Facilities Management believes to be an important part of the master planning and design process. A CNA in the amount of $4,321,477 is on the agenda for board approval to proceed with the next project phases for the master planning and design services for both facilities. Approval of the CNA will authorize the president to enter into an agreement with the project team of Holland, Basham Architects and Davis Design for these services. Facilities Management will seek separate board approval of 1 or more construction managers at risk to proceed with the construction phase services at a future board meeting. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
What's the timing on this when it starts? What's the estimated completion date?
That's a great question. Thank you, Director McGowan. So as far as the schedule, we intend to launch into the master planning services for CC1 this fall, with completion anticipated in early 2023. And those master planning services will also be used for design concepts for CC2. Our intent, and this is based on approval of a $10 million budget for 2023, would then be to complete the design and construction for restroom renovation and partial roof replacement for CC1 in 2023. And this would also include complete schematic design and to also select the construction manager at risk for CC2 by spring 2023, and then be able to hopefully start site grading work in late summer 2023 to be completed by the end of 2023. So then entering into 2024, we would begin the building construction for Construction Center 2, and then complete the remaining schematic design work for CC1 and select if it's going to be a separate construction manager at risk for CC1. There's a potential it could be the same contractor, but there's also a potential it could be a different contractor based on scheduling and how they can meet our schedule to complete the projects. If possible, we're also going to try to begin some level of remaining construction on CC1 if the budget funds are available yet in 2024. And then the intent would be to complete CC2 in the spring or summer of 2025, and then resume the remaining construction for CC1 in 2025 to be completed in 2026.
John, you said CC1 may have a different construction manager. When would that decision be made after, when will that decision be made?
Thank you, Director Bagley. I think after we complete the schematic design for CC1, we would then look to see if that existing construction manager is the best fit to still be able to complete both projects, or if it's better to negotiate with a separate contractor to stay on schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Director of Plant Engineering, Stephanie Hand, will review the acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates.
Good morning. Stephanie Hand, Director of Plant Engineering. I have the next two agenda items, and I will be very brief on both. Starting with our finals letter behind tab number 7. It's a very short and straightforward letter this month. We have 2 finals on there, 1 water development project and 1 relocation project. I'd like to briefly talk about item A, which is our water development project with Cedar Construction. There is a small change order of approximately $3,700 associated with this project, and this was mainly due to supply chain issues in obtaining pipe. So approval of this final also approves the corresponding change order. Any questions on the finals letter? Great, I will move on to tab number 8, which is a large change order for a water development project for Copper Creek Subdivision. This subdivision is located at 168th and Military. The contractor is Kirsten Construction, and the change order amount is just under $150,000 of $149,769. This project was originally bid nearly 4 years ago in 2018, but then was postponed by the developer. The developer would now like to proceed with this project, and so these additional costs are associated with this delay. However, all costs are being paid by the developer. The developer has already approved this, and so this is just pass-through money for the district. Any questions?
Are there any other delays that we should anticipate, similar adjustments in other projects?
Great question, Mr. Bagley. The answer is yes. As we've been dealing with the supply chain issues, and with financing now is certainly changing on a regular basis. Some of the developers are trying to decide if they're moving forward with things even after we've bid them. So, and in some cases they'll come back to, and I can bring in Jeff Skovanek if we need to, they'll come back to our design folks and say, hey, now I only want to do part of the project, and not spend all of the money at once. And so we try and bob and weave as much as we can to accommodate our developers.
And are these change orders budgeted, or they're outside of budget?
Great question. This one actually, anything dealing with this one, like with the developers are paying all of that cost. And so it is actually incorporated typically within our budget, but it's not money that we ultimately, it's just passed through for us.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
While I'm up here, I was going to give you a quick update about the West Dodge Pump Station. Just show you a couple pictures. Jay, can you bring that up for me? Great. If you recall, 2 months ago at the August board meeting, we showed you a couple pictures on where we're at. We're now 2 months later, and we've made a lot of progress, and we wanted to show you that. If you recall, the West Dodge Pump Station is being built near 153rd and West Dodge Road on the south side of the road. This picture was actually taken on Friday, September 30th. And this is actually, now you can see that most of the building exterior is up. Here we have all the brickwork is up and most of the exterior, and we are setting the roof trusses. This was last Friday. This is looking east, and so actually West Dodge Road would be over to this side of the picture, and Lifegate Church would actually be off the picture this way. Here's a picture inside the pump station now that it's getting enclosed. This is actually facing south. So you can see now that the concrete floor has been poured. All of the walls are up. Here's the west wall. So here's the east wall. You can see the new piping that is coming up out of the ground over here. Here are the new water pump bases. So these blocks of concrete right here are where the new pumps are going to be ultimately sitting. You can see 3 of them here. This station actually will have 4. The whole station is 16 million gallons a day, each pump being 4 million gallons. So we're actually looking south. Dodge Street would be behind us. Go ahead, Mr. McGowan.
And just to make sure I understand that new piping coming up, and then you said the concrete there is where the pumps are going to be? So the water will come in through the piping, get pumped, and go out into those other pipes?
You are exactly right. This is actually, the water comes in from this side, which is the east side. It'll come up, there will be more piping. The pumps will be sitting right along here. And then as it increases the pressure through the pump, then it will exit the building through this set of, whoops. Jay, could you go back? Sorry. And then it will exit the building through this piping over on this side, on the west side.
Is this facility temperature controlled?
It is heated but not cooled. So when the pumps kick on, it can get a little warm in there, but cooling is not an issue. We just want to make sure that it's warm enough where nothing will freeze.
What's the pressure differential between the intake and the out?
That is a great question. I'm going to phone a friend. Jeff, do you know off the top of your head? James. Hey, is James Bartles is out in the lobby, and I know he will know if he's listening.
James Bartles, not to be mistaken with Bartles and James.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Thanks, James.
James Bartles, water supply engineer. It's about 35, 40 PSI difference from one side to the other side of the pump station.
This picture I put in there just so you could remember what it looked like in August. I showed you this in August. This was taken August 1st. So you can see this is actually facing north. And so Dodge Street was up here. Here was those pump bases, the concrete pump bases, and you can see the piping. But at this point, we just barely started the west wall. You can see all the sky that you can see here that we can no longer see because we're completing the exterior of the building. This was taken yesterday, so this is hot off the presses. You can see now that this is actually looking south, kind of southwest. All the roof trusses have been installed here, and they're starting to put on the roofing, which is kind of a composite shingle. It's not just an asphalt shingle, but you can see that they're starting to do the roofing. West Dodge Road would be off the picture here to the right. This is Lifegate Church back here to the west. And this picture right here, this is basically just looking the other way. This is looking north, so you can see them, all the roof trusses are in, and you can see the roof going on. Just to give you a reminder, this is what it's going to look like when it's all complete. So you can see we have a lot of the brickwork on already. That's what it will ultimately look like. The dormers aren't there yet, but they will be. And this is what it's going to look like, and we should be complete, substantially complete, by May, June of next year. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much for the pictures. They're so helpful.
You bet.
It really, pictures are so much more impactful than just explaining it to us and then saying this is east and west. But no, those are great pictures too. Whoever took them did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to give kudos to Adam Gardner. He's my project engineer on it. And so those were hot off the presses yesterday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services, John Zellers, will now review the bids on materials and contracts.
Good morning. John Zellers, Vice President, Procurement and Enterprise Services. Bids on materials and contracts may be found under tab 9. There are several items that I would like to discuss this morning, and the first couple may be found under the water and gas main contracts heading, starting on page 1. We received bids on 4 water main projects in which Pat Thomas Construction bid on 2, Avante Subdivision and Blue Stem Meadows. Both bids are rejected as they did not include the required bid bond, and several required bid forms were incomplete. The next item may be found on page 2. The board may recall last month approving a capital expenditure for replacement of security cameras at various district facilities. We accepted bids for the work that includes replacing 15 cameras at LNG and 16 cameras at the operations and construction centers, as most are at end of life and are discontinued products, making repair parts difficult to find. The bid received from VTI Security was rejected as it didn't include costs for equipment needed for installation, and it didn't include the licensing of the cameras required for our Genetec security management system. Due to supply chain challenges and long lead times for the cameras, we issued a purchase order to the low bidder, Prime Communications, and asking for ratification. We accepted bids for the roof replacement of Rainwood and Skyline pump stations. Only one bid was received, which exceeded budget. We are recommending rejecting the bid, at which time funds will be included in the 2023 budget, and we will rebid this winter with hopes of receiving more interest and competitive bids as contractors start filling their 2023 construction schedules.
John, delaying that till next spring or whatever, that roof is okay to get through the winter and everything?
Yeah, we believe so. I mean, it's at its end of life and it needs to be replaced. We actually inspected it twice this year for leaks, and it's holding. So we don't have any concerns in waiting till next year. The last 3 items may be found on page 3. We are recommending the rejection of a single bid for 2 field office trailers as the bid exceeded budget. Our transportation team is evaluating next steps and will look to rebid at a future date. The next item is associated with the purchase of 26 pickup trucks. The board may recall approving the purchase of the 26 pickup trucks in January. Upon approval, a PO was issued to Anderson Ford utilizing pricing under a state of Nebraska contract. In July, we were informed that Ford canceled the production of all outstanding 2022 model year pickup truck orders, which included the 26 that we had on order. In August, we were informed that Ford was opening the ordering window for 2023 pickup trucks and indicated that canceled 2022 orders would be given build priority. This is the same scenario that I discussed in August regarding the Ford Transit vans that the board may recall. As with the vans, the Ford is no longer providing the government discounts we once received for pickup trucks. Pricing for the 2023 model is $14,045 more per truck, which represents an approximate 45% increase. We recommend approval of Anderson Ford's bid utilizing state of Nebraska contract pricing, as we do not believe pricing will improve, and the trucks are to replace older, high mileage trucks no longer economical to maintain. We have been told that if we order now, we could expect delivery of 21 of the pickup trucks by the end of this year.
Hey, John, when we take delivery of those, when we retire the vehicles in service, do we trade them in with the dealer or do we auction them off?
We auction them off.
Does the dealer have any interest in taking those in a trade because of the high price now of used vehicles?
You know, that's a good question. I know on certain equipment we have done trade-ins. I am not familiar with us doing that for vehicles. Usually we drive them until there's not much left. And it's better for us to go through the auctioning process. But I will definitely have that conversation with our transportation team and
yeah, it may or may not be more. It might be more at auction. I don't know.
Yeah. But, you know, especially with the used car prices right now, that's
well, we're paying at the front end, so the back end's got to be up too.
Yeah, exactly.
The second question: when a bid is rejected, is it clearly communicated why to the bidder on why it was rejected, so they can maybe clean up that problem? And because we want more bidders, obviously we don't want to run off a bidder.
Yes, for the example of exceeding budget, that's not necessarily an issue with a particular bidder. That's just a challenge that we have with the funding that's available. But in the case of the water mains, we did have a conversation with Pat Thomas, and they explained to us that they had a new employee that wasn't familiar with the process, and so it sounded like that was kind of an internal training issue. But yes, we do have those conversations.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's a general question. I've never heard of a manufacturer of something canceling an order. Is this another historic thing we're witnessing?
It is, especially in the auto industry. And if we want to get into a lot of detail, I can have Mr. Andy Melville come up and talk about it. But yeah, it's pretty well publicized as well. Ford has, actually I just read an article probably about a month ago, Ford has a lot of vehicles that are just sitting in fields that may or may not even be completed. And a lot of this is still due to the chip shortage. And that's the primary reason is the chip shortage.
Ukraine and...
Yes,
yeah.
just, and even China, just the sheer demand from computers to, I mean, just, everything that we touch today has so much technology in it that those are some of the challenges that we continue to have. ERTs, for example. We had ordered our ERTs back in last November, and we're supposed to get them within a few months, and we just received them last September, and that was directly related to chips as well.
ERTs.
ERTs are I knew. Okay, ERT, I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but what it is that it's a device, a coder that is on the meter that allows us to do the meter reading through mobile instead of manual reading. All right. The last item may be found at the bottom of the page. Speaking of ERTs, we are recommending approval to enter into a 3-year purchase agreement with Itron for water and gas ERTs. Traditionally, purchasing would receive annual pricing from Itron for annual ERT requirements. Due to anticipated continual supply chain challenges and escalating costs, purchasing negotiated with Itron to enter into a 3-year agreement in which pricing would be held constant for 2023. And annual pricing for the following 2 years would be adjusted based on the producer price index for final demand goods as published by the U.S. Department of Labor. This could either go up or it could go down. Anticipated benefits would include an approximate 4% cost savings, defined annual pricing consistent with market demand, and advanced ordering to alleviate long lead times. And if I could, I will just provide a quick update on our ERT saturation. Currently, we are 93% ERTed. That's up 1% from last year. We're pretty much near the tail end here. On the gas side, excuse me, I misspoke. Overall, it's 93%, 1% from last year. For the gas, it's 91%, up from 89% from last year. And for the water, 95%, up from 94% last year. All right, thank you.
Vice President of Engineering, Masaneo will review the proposed main extension.
Good morning. Just a quick sound check. Mary Mancuso, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you. Masania, Vice President of Engineering. I'll be covering the next 2 agenda items behind tabs 10 and 11. First, on tab 10, the main extensions letter, we have 4 water main extensions and 1 gas main extension for this month. The impact of the water main extension includes water service and fire protection to 478 residential lots, 3 multi-residential lots, and 3 commercial lots. The impacts of the gas main extension includes gas service to 272 residential lots. These projects are spread across the Western Service Territory, as you can see in the map there. They are in subdivisions 1 and 4. There are no district dollars involved with any of these new developments. I'd also like to note, based on the previous discussions around supply chain issues with ductile iron pipe, that all 4 of these developments have been designed in PVC for the water mains. Finally, all 4 of these subdivisions have requested M.U.D gas service as well. Going to the lone gas main extension, this is one of the 4 that's requested gas service on the water side. At the top of page 2, you'll see Avante Subdivision. There's a district contribution of $64,336 to oversize about 1.25 miles of this from 2-inch to 4-inch mains to help serve future growth in the surrounding area. And with that, I'll ask if there are any questions on the main extensions letter.
Amasa, this is Tim Kavanaugh. I understand that Costco may locate at 190 what, 186th and Maple. Do we ever reach out to these in advance to try to sell them our gas products? It got me thinking of this when I saw the mains being installed in that area. Do we visit with them to try to get them to commit to gas products? Anybody?
Director Kavanaugh, when you say commit to gas products, are you referring to gas service to heat their buildings?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, our business development team, they watch for these large customers coming in, and we do proactive outreach to them, really highlighting our revenue credit program that we have, both if there's a gas main extension involved. And I'm not familiar enough exactly where I know it's along West Maple, but if a gas main extension is needed or not. But if it's just a gas service because the main is already there, we also like to promote our revenue program with gas services as well.
Actually, it's east of 180th and just south of Maple. So I think this would be right in this area we're talking about here, Blue Meadows.
Okay. Yeah, we'll certainly look at that and make sure the team has reached out to the Costco developers.
And it looks like we've got the infrastructure in place to serve it with water.
Right. Yep. We will. There's, as you can see in the map, there's just some areas that isn't necessarily out on the periphery of our service boundary, and there's some infill needed. Like you mentioned, the Costco development. There's still some open ground out there, so it requires fewer long main extensions, but we've got water mains available and the transmission mains creating that area to be able to serve these new customers.
Okay, good, because I hate to see it completed, then have to go back and open it up again and enlarge the service. So that's why I asked in advance.
Yeah. The kind of the development community, and I can think of a number of other large developments like Costco, and we had the water mains in La Vista for that Costco, and they were communicating to us well in advance as they're going through the platting process. Before any really footings were installed for the building, we knew that there's a Costco going there, so we had that communication, whether it was with through the engineering department or business development or both. We're dialed in with those developers and their engineers.
Okay, thanks.
Mas, I didn't make sure, I want to follow you. The La Vista Costco, is that served with natural gas?
I believe that is not in our gas service territory, but it does have our water service. I do know that.
I think that's a great question. That's such a big, Costco's such a big building and business. Could I ask you to send a board note about whether we're going to serve gas to Costco or not, or what's going on with the gas service?
Certainly, I'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll move on to tab 11. Tab 11 is the certification of cost for the WMD, so Water Main District, on Earl Avenue and setting of the Board of Equalization date. So I'll use the acronym WMD throughout. So that stands for, again, Water Main District. Just a recap of the Water Main District. So the WMD is a mechanism that's provided in Nebraska state statutes, 18-401, to facilitate water main extensions to partially developed areas. The WMD recovers costs in the project by assessing a prorated cost to the property owners based on footage along the mains, and is paid back through the county by a special assessment fee over a 10-year period. So here, north of Military along Earl Avenue, as you see in the map, this would be Douglas County handling the billing on this project. The use of the WMDs were common practice in the 1950s, and its use declined since the utilization of sanitary improvement districts, or SIDs for short, to develop land, which became routine. And All 4 of the water mains that I covered in the previous tab, those were all developed through SIDs. So the last time we completed a WMD project is 1993, so nearly 30 years ago was our last WMD main. So previously, what was brought to this board of directors by Mr. Mendenhall are some steps, are part of the whole WMD procedure as outlined by our procedures and by state statutes. So you may recall back in September of 2021, at that board meeting, the board approved the creation of this WMD along Earl Avenue, following petition by the lot owners along Earl Avenue to bring M.U.D water there. And it was led by primarily water quality issues and possibly some quantity issues, as well as their well system was built in the 1960s. Bids were received following the creation of the WMD last year, and installation was approved by the board on October of 2021. The petition included 78.9% of the accessible footage along the route that approved the installation. That was 9 of the 13 lot owners, so the majority approved it, and it triggered the next step for installation. So since that time, the water main has been installed, approximately a quarter mile, as you see in the map there, of 12-inch and 8-inch ductile iron pipe, and it was put in service this past spring. The homeowners contracted their own service work. This was clear and well understood from the very beginning of the WMD process. So we have 10 water services that have been installed out there, all by one plumber that the homeowners coordinated that plumbing work together on. So with this letter, we're recommending approval of this resolution. The approval certifies the final costs of the WMD installation, which is $290,340.54. I should note that the previous estimate that the homeowners, the 9 of the 13 lot owners, were in favor of was higher than this final cost. So the estimate provided last October was almost $298,000, just short of that. So about $8,000 lower in cost. And really these final costs, it was a team effort, and I need to give my thanks out there to the engineering team working closely with legal and the accounting team to finalize these costs, make sure all the details were worked through, given that we haven't done one of these WMDs in such a long time. The approval also triggers the district to notify the affected property owners of the actual costs. So the homeowners weren't formally informed yet until the board approves this. The statute requires publication notice, which is targeted. We're targeting this Sunday's Omaha World Herald publication if the board approves, along with certified letters that would go out to each of the affected homeowners. The date and the time noted in the letter is for the Board of Equalization is at the November board meeting from 9:30 to 10:30. And that is all I have to cover for this agenda item. I'd be glad to take any questions or comments. All right, thank you.
Vice President of Human Resources, Bonnie Savine, wage and/or salary increases and ratifications.
Good morning to everyone. Happy October. Bonnie Savine, Vice President, Human Resources. We'll start with a recap of employee counts for the end of September last year and this year. There were 822 regular full-time employees at the end of September 2021. There were also 3 regular part-time employees for a total of 825. Ending this September, we had 834 regular full-time employees and 3 regular part-time for a total of 837. We also had 9 temporary part-time employees, which was a mix of part-time temporaries and interns. A review of jobs actively in various stages of the placement process is as follows. 7 jobs have a requisition routing through the approval process at this time. 13 jobs are posted. 1 is internal only, 12 are external only. Those include a mix of CAD and GIS techs, a number of engineers, some interns, and pipe layer trainee. 7 jobs are in the application review or interview stages. And we also have 3 jobs with 5 selected candidates, and those candidates are going through the onboarding process right now. I will take a moment to just remind our board of directors and those listening in that our benefit fair for this year will be held on October 20th, and we're always excited about that event. Last year we had about 500 attendees. That's a mix of employees, retirees, their family members. That event is not only an opportunity for them to get information about current benefits that are afforded to them as employees, retirees, family members, but we also continue to have our on-site mammogram bus offered through Methodist. We have our vaccine clinic, which has always included flu, pneumonia, and shingles, but this year, again, will include COVID vaccines. And we have the boot mobile on site for some of our employees who might be looking to use their boot reimbursement. We have all of our internal resources available. So we have HR, we have communications there, we have the union there, we'll have our women's and cultural ERGs there. So it's an engaging event, and we'll be there all day. All right.
Bonnie, where was this at?
We have it at the Firefighters Union Hall right off the corner of 60th and Grover for quick access for our most of our crews going out into the field for the day, and access for retirees and family members without, too much trouble of escorting and things of that nature.
Quick question, will the new COVID booster be available?
Yes. Yes, we have had some of those brought to our on-site flu and COVID vaccine clinics that we are holding at all 7 of our facilities.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Bonnie, you said it was the 20th?
Correct.
And then what are the hours?
7:30 until 4. 7:30 a.m.
It's a great event. You do a terrific job with that. There's so many opportunities to, everybody's there in one place, so it's great. So thank you for doing that again.
You're welcome.
Bonnie, is there any partnership opportunity there with maybe the Red Cross and the blood drive to have their blood unit there?
Thank you for asking. I will check with Tracy Christensen. She and I have talked in the recent past about how we might be able to offer that. We used to do that downtown and partner with OPPD so that we had enough flow to be able to commit for them to come. So I will look into that. Thanks for the question. Good question. Behind tab 12, you will find the wage and or salary increases and ratifications letter. It's one of our shorter letters this year. We have 5 employees on the letter. 4 are being promoted as OAC promotions through the normal posting process. And then we have 1 new hire ratification for the month of September. That is it. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Assistant General Counsel Joseph Kemp will now review the proposed settlement of workers' comp case.
Good morning. Joseph Kemp, Assistant General Counsel. The Law Department is recommending that the board approve a settlement reached in a workers' compensation lawsuit as detailed in the letter behind tab 13. This lawsuit is currently pending in the Nebraska Workers' Compensation Court. The settlement proposed was reached after the parties participated in a mediation. The settlement has the approval of the plaintiff's attorney, and we are recommending that it be approved. In our judgment, it is fair and reasonable under the circumstances, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question not related to the legal aspect. but maybe safety or HR, do we do training on wrist stretches and body stretches and all of that preventative stuff that maybe we should all start with in the morning? I know my back is stiff once I sit here for a couple of hours. Do we do that?
Well, I would say, in general, it's interesting, the question, we had this exact discussion or a similar discussion yesterday, and I actually spoke with Shane Dockin from Safety about maybe strategies and things that the district does to prevent injuries like this. I would say in general, the district tracks data of workplace injuries in an attempt to identify trends, perhaps modify procedures to, maybe use safer tools, safer methods, that sort of thing. I think stretching is one that maybe would show some benefits. I can't tell you precisely whether that has been incorporated, but I would say what we do, there is always some risk. For example, changing out meters and that sort of thing, it involves hand tools. But the goal is to minimize that risk to the extent possible.
I mean, it's not, to me, if I see something like this, my assumption is that there are many other folks who are suffering in silence, or they've already retired, and I don't know how much it would take to include it in the initial training or onboarding, even just as an FYI, that's all.
Thank you for the suggestion. Any other questions? Thank you.
Do any board members have any further comments? We will now go to the next agenda item for public comment. Are there any members of the public in attendance today who would like to address the board?
Mr. Chair, if I could. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to make one comment. My name is Mark Mendenhall, Senior Vice President, General Counsel. Going back to tab 11, I just wanted to express appreciation, as Mr. Nia did, regarding the engineering and legal teams. This is a process that we haven't utilized again since 1993, and we relied heavily on Justin Cooper out of the legal department, who you all know. But one individual you may not know, Mark Mushik, is a 40-year employee that is retiring. I believe his coffee is next week or this week. So he was integral in this process, which is somewhat convoluted based on our procedures and state statutes. So I just wanted to express appreciation for you all to hear Mr. Mushik's name. So that's all I had, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a member of this person?
How's it going? My name is Scott Murray. I just wanted to introduce myself and put a face with the name. I already know some of you. I am on the ballot this fall for District 7, and just wanted to introduce myself to the board and really just put a face with the name. So thank you.
Scott, District 7 for this office?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
there's a lot of District 7s. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Phone I met. Do any board members have any further comments? We now will go to the next agenda item for public comment. Are there any members of the public in attendance today who would like to address the board? We have done that. The committee meetings have now concluded. We will reconvene for the regular monthly board meeting in 10 minutes at 1:15. Here.
McGowan?
Here.
Howard?
Here.
Kavanaugh?
Here.
Bagley?
Here.
Cook?
Here.
Friend?
Roll call. Pardon?
Check.
Okay, Open Meetings Act. I would like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall at the back of the boardroom. And now, for those who wish to participate, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Approval of minutes for the committee meetings and regular board meeting for September 7th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost?
Here.
McGowan?
Here.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Capital expenditures. Director Cook.
Thank you. I move we approve the proposed capital expenditures as presented in the committee meetings by Senior Vice President and Chief Operations Officer Gina Langle, and as outlined in her letter to the committee dated September 27th, 2022.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost?
Here.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Agenda 6, Master Planning and Design Phase Services for the renovation of Construction Center 1 and to build Construction Center 2.
Thank you. I move we approve the proposed master planning and design services for the renovation of the Construction Center 1 and to build Construction Center 2, as presented by Director of Facilities Management, John Veloradzki, in the committee meetings and as outlined in his letter to the committee dated September 29th, 2022.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost?
Aye.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Acceptance of contracts and payments of final estimates. Go ahead.
All right. I move we approve the proposed acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates as presented in the committee meetings by Director of Plant Engineering, Stephanie Hinn, and as outlined in her letter to the committee dated September 24th, 2022.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Agenda item number 8, change order for water main installation in Copper Creek Subdivision. I move we approve the proposed change order for water main installation in the Copper Creek Subdivision as presented in committee meetings by Ms. Henn and as outlined in her letter to the committee dated September 9, 2022.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost?
Aye.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Bids on materials and contracts.
I move we approve the proposed bids on materials and contracts as presented in the committee meetings by Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services, John Zellers, and as outlined in the letter to the committee from Director of Procurement, Sherry Meisinger, dated September 23rd, 2022.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Main extensions, Director Cook.
I move we approve the proposed main extensions as presented in the committee meetings by Vice President of Engineering, Masania, and as outlined in his letter to the committee dated September 23rd, 2022.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost?
Aye.
McGowan?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Bagley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Certification of cost of water main district on Earl Avenue and setting Board of Equalization date and resolutions. Director Cook.
Thank you. I move we approve the proposed certification of cost of water main district on Earl Avenue and setting Board of Equalization date along with the accompanying resolutions as presented in the committee meetings by Mr. Nia and as outlined in his letter to the committee dated September 29th, 2022.
Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Maybe include in there too that the date will be November 2nd from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. The Board of Equalization will convene.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion. Roll call.
Frost.
Aye.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Wage and/or salary increases and ratifications. Director Begley.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I move we approve the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications as discussed in committee this morning and outlined in Ms. Savine's memo dated September 22nd, 2022.
Any second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Roll call.
Frost.
Aye.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Sorry.
Yes.
Settlement of workers' compensation case. Director Cook.
I move we approve the proposed settlement of workers' compensation case as presented in the committee meetings by Assistant General Counsel Joseph Kim and as outlined in his letter to the committee dated September 27th, 2022.
Second.
Need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost.
Aye.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Other matters of district business for discussion. Do any board members have any comments they wish to share? Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board? Okay. Where the hell is the next page?
Can you hear me okay?
There will be no closed session.
Mr. Chair, I believe I just heard Mr. Doyle.
Oh.
Mark, was that you?
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Mark.
Yes, sir.
Hi. Thank you for letting me attend remotely. It really does show you can work from anywhere. I'm in a spot where we're 2 hours different, so starting a meeting at 6:15 isn't my cup of tea, but I've enjoyed listening. And you're also, I told Mark he was going to make me look bad because it was going to be a really quick meeting, and it's panning out except for me dragging it on a little. One thing I would like to say is when I checked in, this is a national Water Smart Innovation Conference that caught my eye, and I'm involved in some discussions and things here. But when I checked in this morning, I was greeted with, since it's an AWWA-sanctioned national conference, the op flow that's being handed to everyone here happens to be the most current version, which we showed you last month, with our M.U.D employees front and center.
Looking good.
Kind of a neat way to get greeted this morning with everyone kind of reading and looking at this article. Timing is everything.
Yes.
So thank you, and I appreciated all the comments. We always take notes, and we will follow up. I especially appreciated the notes about stretching and some of the things we can do to assist, and that there are those that could be suffering that we don't know about. So Director Cook, those are great comments. And you all have a great day, and thanks for letting me take a few minutes here.
Hey, Mark, before you go, I had talked to you last week about any chance we might offer some sort of relief or assistance in the Florida, Fort Myers area. Was there any result of that?
Good question, Director Kavanaugh. I was just going to ask Gina to come up to the mic.
Oh.
Thanks, Gina.
Beat you to it. Gina Langle, Senior Vice President, Chief Operations Officer. We have been working with one of the people that here that is our business continuity person to be able to answer a lot of the questions that we need, both legally and from a financial standpoint before we can do that. But we do have interest in helping with that. We do have to work through the state and federal agencies to make sure it's proper. So we have those, and we are also talking to other utilities to see how they do it and see if we can have a process like that. So we do have an interest in helping if we can get all of our questions answered properly.
To your knowledge, has there been a lot of destruction on water delivery, intakes and piping and so forth in that area?
I do know, just from personal experience, I was texting a good friend of mine that lives down in that area, and they don't have water at this time or power. And so I don't know how widespread it is, but I certainly can find out.
Perhaps we can offer some assistance, technology or expert-wise, engineering-wise, whatever they need, we could take a look and see what we have to offer.
Absolutely. So we'll continue to do that. And I was just talking to a representative here at the district last evening and said, can you keep pushing that and making sure that we're getting through and understanding that we are willing to do it as long as we get our concerns and our questions answered before we do that.
Well,
but thank you for the question.
Thanks.
Along those lines, I understand Jackson, Mississippi is still kind of struggling. So as we get these questions answered, maybe we can, look forward to having a kind of at least not so much a litmus test, but a policy in terms of how and whether and how much we engage.
Thank you, Tanya, for bringing that up. That really is a critical issue down there, and it's gone on for a long time. Any way we can be helpful, I think is really significant.
Yes, Directors Howard and Cook, we are aware of different missions that they're asking for, and we are trying to get those same questions answered so that we can have a process in place where that we can ask for volunteers if we have employees that would be interested in helping in that. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Frost.
Aye.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
We're adjourned.